And then WWE actually offered me a contract after that. But yeah, it was a little weird. And
it was weird.
I'm going to think about this. Like, I'm going to probably... AJ made the call, and so the ref was like, you guys need to go home. You have X amount of minutes. I can't believe you were in the building. Yeah. So, amazing question.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome to Celeste Fest and Muscle Memory. My name is Malcolm. I'm here with Celeste Bonin, a.k.a. Kaitlyn. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. Yeah. So this event today is in Baltimore. Yeah. I debuted in Baltimore, and I asked for my release in Baltimore. So it's like, so it's like lots of ties here. It's cool. Yeah.
That's amazing. And like one thing that was really cool about your career is when you won NXT Season 3, I believe. And that was in Hampton, Virginia. I was actually in the stadium. I was so happy to see you win. I was voting for you the whole entire season. What did you think, like, in that moment, like, when you won, like, you heard your name? Like, did you think you were going to win? Like, what was your emotion going into that?
I said, I can't believe you were in the building.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. Man, so the entire NXT experience was such a blur.
Yeah.
Because, when I debuted, I had a couple of days notice, and I was like the first time I ever wrestled, ever. And so most moments were, I was just so like a deer in the headlights. But when we came down to the finale, I knew, okay, there's a chance I could win. What is it that I want to say? And so I had a couple things in my mind. I was like, I'll say this if I win. But in the moment that it happened, it was just like everything left my brain, like everything left my body. And I was like, oh my God. And just like, not like my life flashed before my eyes, but everything that had happened in those like 3-4 months leading up to that, it was just like, oh my God, it happened. And so it was just this one, like a quantum moment where everything collapsed, and I don't even have a reference for anything that I was thinking. I was just like, okay, what is it that you wanted to say? What feels important? So it was just one of those moments where you put everything into it and you're like, I have no idea what to expect. I have no idea how things are going to go. So I'm just like, I have nothing to lose. You know?
Totally. And like even looking at like other parts of your career as well, like when you came back for the Mae Young Classic and like had your amazing comeback, there's so many people were like looking for you to come back into WWE. Was there ever an opportunity of you coming back into the company?
So amazing question. So I left WWE in 2014, and then I didn't do anything with wrestling for 4 years. I was just like in a really strange place in my life. And I started getting back in the ring in 2018 because I was in a very low point of my life, and I was looking for something to kind of like, ignite some passion or a spark within me again. And so I started getting back in the ring at like a local school in South Florida where I was living. Yeah. And my buddy Canyon Seaman, he doesn't work for WWE anymore, but he and I had become very close over a few years, and he had a huge part in what the Performance Center is now. And we spent a lot of time talking like backstage and at TV and stuff when I was still wrestling, because of the way that I was essentially introduced into the company and how everything happened. He was like, we want to ensure that everybody, goes through a process to really prepare them for television. And so we just became really tight. And so he reached out to me and he was like, do you want to do this? And I was like, I saw that you've been in the ring and whatever. And I was like, yes. And I felt like it was this opportunity for a little bit of redemption for myself, the way that I felt. I hated my last match when I left. And I didn't love the way that I left. It was very tumultuous, like emotionally and mentally for me. So I was looking at the Mae Young as like, oh, this is such a cool opportunity to come back as this different version of myself that I've essentially rebuilt and reconstructed. And so it was so fun. And then, I wrestled 2 matches. My second match was Mae Young. I was so excited to wrestle her because, number one, I just dig her style. I dig her, she's so dope. And when I had left WWE, I started a clothing line, and she was like such a huge supporter. She would always buy my stuff. She would always post it. She would always be wearing it. And I loved and appreciated that so much. It was very difficult transitioning careers like that. I didn't know anything about business. But so I would always had so much love and respect for her in so many different avenues. And then getting to wrestle her was like a dream. She's so good in the ring, and we connected like instantly. And when I got out of the ring after I lost and she won to the next round, Triple H came out, gave her a contract, and I was already like very emotional in a great way at the end of that match, because in my mind I was like, if this is the last match I ever wrestle for WWE, I'm happy. Like I felt like I had solidified that feeling that I was looking for a long time. And then WWE actually offered me a contract after that, but it just didn't align. Like it didn't align with, I had my business, in a, northern, wherever where was I? Somewhere in Florida, I had my business. It didn't work for me to move to Orlando, and it just wasn't right. It wasn't the right timing, and I didn't feel like, I should go back to wrestling now after everything that's happened. So after the Mae Young, I felt very satiated and satisfied with how things ended. And then I also had we had Michael Cole, Beth Phoenix, and Renee Young doing commentary, and I had the opportunity to sit down with them beforehand and just talk it out and be like, here's what I'm doing now, here's my story and stuff. And it was cool because Beth took me under her wing for so many things, and so I had so much love and gratitude for her. And then to have her calling my match, I was like, holy shit. And then Renee, she's amazing. We always connected. And then Michael Cole, he was always such a bad guy, such a this evil energy. Especially during NXT season 3 for the girls, and we felt like we had really gone through the ringer in that season, and so it was cool to kind of make amends and talk with him at these different stages of our lives and our careers, and so it just felt very full circle for me.
Yeah, and there's a lot of bad guys and evil characters in pro wrestling. One of them was Stephanie McMahon, and there was a segment that she just randomly just started calling out women, and I never understood it. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's she just got on the mic and just started belittling you. I didn't understand it. Was there a story behind that? Why was that a thing?
To be honest, there was so much going on at that time in the with the women's division and all the stuff that AJ and I had done, and then there was Total Divas and stuff. It was, to be so honest, it was all very confusing. It was all so confusing, and I don't actually really remember the substance of what they were trying to do. Yeah. But I do remember it being number one, I was like, holy shit, I have a segment with Stephanie McMahon, on the mic, live TV. And so it was a very cool moment for me, just in general in my career. But also I was so nervous, so because it's Stephanie McMahon. Yeah. And I always have a lot of love and respect for her, just her vision and the way that she went about things. But yeah, it was a little weird, and
it was weird.
I'm gonna think about this. I'm gonna probably be awake at night, being what was happening, because that was 10 years ago, and I feel that part of my career was just so tumultuous, and I don't really remember. I think I was in a state of panic a lot of the time, or just confusion a lot of the time. So I'll call you up and let you know when I think of it.
We'll get the scoop eventually. It's all good. It's all good. I want to mention the feud you had with AJ Lee, how I rank my favorite women's wrestling matches. It goes number 2, Bianca Sasha at WrestleMania, or number 1, Payback, KAITLYN versus AJ. That match was fire. I loved it so much. Going into that match and going into that entire feud with someone that you're so close with, what was the emotion going into it? I just want to know everything about it.
Thank you so much. Man. So I feel our connection and our friendship and the emotion is what built the story. Yeah. That is what actually got us there, and just the trust. So whenever I got the phone call that I was going to debut on live TV for NXT, I called AJ, and I had just been in developmental for a couple weeks, and we had instantly became friends. We were already friends, and I was just I was crying. I was I don't feel ready. I don't know what to do. And she was so amazing. She was so amazing, and just how she guided me, supported me, and we were just so tight. For all the parts that were really scary, of stepping into this huge metaphorical arena, but also literal arena, we just had each other's back so much, and just had such a special connection. And there was we had a lot of ups and downs in our friendship, just like anybody does.
Yeah, of course.
But we really persevered together, and and there were so many things that she was going through, and then it was me, and then it was her, and so it felt like this moment of holy shit, we did it, we did it. And even in the match, there was a couple decisions that we had to make, just live decisions. And
can I ask which ones those were?
Yeah, so we had one of them is so we went over on our time.
Oh, okay.
We went over on our time on that match, and it's a pay-per-view. You should never do that. But we had AJ made the call, and so the ref was like, you guys need to go home. You have X amount of minutes, and she made the call to keep going, and I was like, all right, I'm with you. And so we kind of committed in that moment to being like, whatever happens, happens. But we were so committed to that story, and we had put so much of ourselves leading up to that we were like, we're not just gonna cut it short. Like we felt like we had earned it, and we were like, we know, like we could feel it. We could feel it from the crowd. We were like, let's.
It's in Chicago too. That's like it's a wrestling city.
Oh my God, I love wrestling in Chicago. We were like, this is not the time to go home, and we trusted ourselves, and it paid off, and payback paid off, and then with how that match ended, and just everything that we had felt and everything we felt from the crowd, we like knew that was the right decision as soon as we did go home, and even though like there was nervousness going back into Gorilla, like backstage, you're like, are we gonna get fired? We were met with like such like appreciation for the art and like this decision that we made, but also like, don't do that again. And so it was little things like that where we learned.
Can I get Vince's reaction to that match?
I don't even remember. I remember Cena was back there. He was like, he was the one that was like right there, and he had so many amazing things to say. But I think he was the match after us. He was like, don't go over on your time on pay-per-views. But in the big picture, the women, like, we would always have our matches cut, always. And I understand, like, money and like what brings people into their seats and stuff, and a lot of times the Divas matches would just get cut. But we had put so much energy, effort, like our life force into that story, and like building up the division to where it got in that story, that we felt like we're like, this is the right decision in this moment, So it will be forever my favorite match, and it was just because it was everything. It was everything, the whole story, our friendship, the things that were happening on television, and then the behind-the-scenes things that is what made it so magic.
I also want to ask, during like WrestleMania 29, I know you had the title at the time. Was there ever plans for you to be on that show? Because I feel like there's something going on there. You should have been a part of that WrestleMania.
Yeah, there was like, it was like a really weird time, because that WrestleMania is when Total Divas was like introduced, and when I had gotten the title, I had a great storyline with Eve, and then it kind of there was never a big uptick again in that, and so I think there was a possibility I was going to be in like a mixed tag or something like that, but I really didn't know. I didn't know until I wasn't in it, and I was definitely disappointed, and I was just going through a hard time, like with my own self-confidence, my own abilities. So I definitely took it personal, but I also understood that it's like the nature of the business. I was with the company for 4 years and was never on a WrestleMania, So that part, I'm like, if one thing could have changed, if I could have been in a WrestleMania, I would have, been so grateful. But it was just a different time where they were trying new stuff, introducing this whole other Total Divas thing, and just, I don't think that anybody really knew what the vision was for the women's division. So, what do you do? But to be honest, like, even getting to be backstage or even during the entire week of WrestleMania is an unbelievable experience. So I got that for 4 years, just all the access, just being in the actual building. It's so electric. It's so much energy. It's cool to be a part of.
And like, I guess I want to just see, like, are you retired? Are you officially not wrestling anymore? Is this like a thing, or is you making a comeback?
The question is so prevalent today, but I mean, it's been, 10 years since I wrestled, and then I did Mae Young. So I think with anything, like, I'm not 100% so against coming back, like, oh, I'm retired and that's it. I'm always open to cool opportunities, cool collaborations. It's not really in my sight right now to pursue wrestling, but after so many years of like being removed from it, I certainly have a different appreciation for it, and I feel like I understand it on such a deeper level, and for truly like such an art form that it is. So I feel that I would be a completely different performer, in the ring now versus then, and that's true for anybody. As they get older, you just realize so much shit about yourself, and you're like, and you just operate different. So I'll never say, I'm retired and I'll never get in a ring again, but it's not anything that's like I'm actively trying to make happen, if that makes sense. No,
that's totally fair. And my last question for you, so we can wrap this up, because I know it looks like everyone's packing up and getting ready to go home, is like, you mentioned a few times during this interview you had a few low points. How do you feel like now, like 2023? Are you back up?
Yeah, man. So I'm 36 now, and when
I'll give you 25.
I feel like I have been aging reverse since I started kind of figuring my shit out. But yeah, in 2014 when I left, I was just in a difficult place, and I was 27. And just, I think everyone's 20s are just like a wild ride.
I feel that. I'm 23.
Yeah. This shit's wild.
Yeah.
And when I went into wrestling, I already had insecurities. I already had things that, mentally and emotionally that messed with me, or just beliefs about myself. And so they really just got super magnified when I was there, just being on television and being in the public eye. And I was really hard on myself for a lot of things. And stepping into social media, like that, starting a Twitter account, like all those things, it was such a huge eye-opener for me. And it was just very difficult. And I was very much a loner. So I just didn't know how to like process my feelings or talk to anybody. And so I was really shut down emotionally. And so when I left, I was just like at a point where I was like, I need to do something different. I need to change something. And then, I was working on myself. I got married when I left, and it was just a very toxic marriage, toxic situation. And then in 2018, about 5 years ago, I hit like my lowest point. And, I was struggling with, I had just finished my divorce. I was struggling with just identity and self-worth and drinking and drugs, and just trying to find, a feeling, to find myself, to find something more to live for. And so for the past 5 years, I've done a tremendous amount of work on myself, and just processing a lot of things that took place in my life, or certain dynamics that created my way that I see the world, or the way that I see myself, or the way that I interpret my reality, my experience, and just learning how to access the deepest parts of myself and listen to myself. What are the things that I want? What do I feel? What do I want to express? What do I want to do? How do I want to live? And honoring those things, and just getting more into alignment with like what it is that I'm here for, And so I'm in an amazing place. I've never been better, but it's only because of the drastic lows that I have experienced in my life that would make any of this possible. To where I am now, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, on every aspect. I'm the healthiest I've ever been because of all that shit.
And like you said yourself that you left WWE when you're 27, and so for like 4 years of your life, and maybe a little bit before that, you lived out most of your life on camera in front of us. And just the fact that you're able to like overcome all these situations, something to really be proud of yourself for. So
thank you.
Just want to make sure that you know that.
Yeah, thank you
Of course.
I appreciate you. Yeah.
And as we wrap this up, where can they find you on social media and just follow you?
So I'm mostly active on Instagram. It's Celeste Bonin, first last name, and yeah, everything I do essentially is posted up on there. You can find. I do a lot of live events in Austin, Texas. So if anybody's in Austin, Texas, hit me up. Everything that I do or host or am a part of is you can find it on my Instagram.
Amazing. We're gonna let you get out of here now, but Celeste,
cool.
Thank you so much for this interview. I really appreciate it.
Thank you,
guys. This is Muscle Memory Celeb Fest. My name's Malcolm Celeste Bonin, and we're out.
Going up like 1,000. I'ma flex just like a muscle man Malcolm. We going up like 1,000. I'ma flex just like a muscle man Malcolm. When it just like 1, 2, 3. If you like the channel, this will squeeze. If you like the channel, this will squeeze. If you like the channel, this will squeeze.